This 1775 Bible shows that March is actually the first month of the year, and Sunday, yes, you heard right, is the first day of the week.
The first month of the year is March! Look at all the way to the end, guys. There's 13 months. 13 months! First day of the week, Sunday. Second day, Monday. Look at that. Seventh day or Sabbath, Saturday. This is the proof right here.
I've always been a curious soul, but not in the way you'd expect from scholars or historians. My explorations take place from the comfort of my own home, often late into the night, guided by the soft glow of my laptop screen. This is how I ended up watching a video by Mark Pyers on his channel, Mark Inspires. What I discovered there sent me straight down a rabbit hole. Mark presented an old Bible from 1775, and it wasn't the antiquity of the book that caught my attention, it was the content. According to this Bible, the first month of the year is March, and each week begins on a Sunday. I paused the video. Sunday as the first day? March as the first month? That's not what any calendar I've ever hung on my wall has shown. The curiosity in me sparked. I wondered, if what I was looking at was true, why did everything change? Who decided to flip the script and shift the months around? And why does it feel like we might be out of step with the rhythm that was once so ingrained in our culture that it was worth printing in the good book itself? It was like finding a piece in a puzzle that I didn't know was missing. The more I thought about it, the more questions arose. What if the holidays we celebrate, the ones we've been told were based on ancient traditions, were actually aligned with a different rhythm, one dictated by this forgotten calendar? Take Christmas, for instance, often said to be a rebranding of pagan festivities. If we were following this old system, where would that leave December 25th? Would it hold the same meaning if it didn't coincide with the winter solstice as neatly as it does now? Could this alternative arrangement of time affect not just holidays, but our everyday lives? I'm not an academic with a wall of degrees, but that night, I felt a responsibility to learn more. There was a sense that by understanding the past, by peeling back the layers of changes and adaptations, I might find something essential. Something about how we connect with the universe, with each other, and how we find our place within the cycles that govern our existence. And so, I began a journey, one not through dusty library shelves or ancient ruins, but through the digital realm of information, armed with a newfound determination. I was ready to see where this old Bible's tale would lead me and what it might reveal about the world we think we know so well. Discovering that Sunday might actually be the starting point of the week necessitates a serious reconsideration of cultural and religious norms. It presents the startling idea that the day we traditionally dedicate to rest and religious observance could indeed be Saturday. Such a perspective carries weighty implications for contemporary religious customs, hinting that widespread practices might not align with this historical viewpoint. Astrologically, the impact of such a shift cannot be understated. Each day's energies are traditionally tied to a celestial body, which, according to astrological systems, can influence human affairs. Misalignment between our constructed week and this celestial ordering might disrupt the intended flow of cosmic energies into daily life. For adherents of astrology, this calls into question the very foundation of their practice, suggesting a need for a thorough reassessment of how days and their corresponding planetary energies are observed and honored. This raises the fundamental question: who was it that altered the configuration of our week, thereby altering the fabric of our lives? The catalyst for such a change is not immediately evident. It may have been an incremental process influenced by the shifts in religious and secular authorities over the millennia, or it might have been an intentional move to distance contemporary practice from ancient traditions.
One of the things Constantine did was because he wanted the pagans to worship God, Jehovah, was he moved the day of worship to the day of the sun, which is why we now worship on Sunday, because Sunday became a pagan day.
One thing is clear. There seems to be a deliberate discrepancy between our current temporal structure and that of historical records, though the motivations behind this are still veiled in mystery. The departure from the calendrical structure as outlined in the 1775 Bible could imply that many facets of our daily existence are misaligned with both historical precedent and perhaps celestial design. This misalignment extends to significant dates of observance. The timing of festivities such as Christmas and Easter, for instance, might not truly reflect their original intent or season. Contemplating a realignment with this historic calendar suggests the possibility of returning to a way of life that is more authentic, perhaps closer to spiritual principles that have been overshadowed over time. It prompts us to consider whether a shift in observance to align with historical records could reconnect us to a spiritual authenticity that has been eroded. This discourse is not merely about adherence to religious rules or speculative astrological theories. It centers on our alignment with the natural and cosmic order that may predate contemporary calendars. Choosing to follow this route is about much more than date correction. It's a quest to uncover a harmony with the natural world that may have been lost. As we delve further into the contents of this ancient text, we have to wonder what further insights they may offer, and in what ways these could revolutionize our current understanding of time, spirituality, and our place within the cosmos. This exploration is not only fascinating, but has the potential to be profoundly life-altering. The 1775 Bible, which intriguingly outlines a calendar year starting with March and comprising 13 months, hints at a bygone era's intimate dance with the cosmos. This historical artifact opens a window to explore how our ancestors perceived time and its connection to cosmic energy and planetary alignments. Historically, calendars were not just tools for marking days, they were intricately linked to the movements of celestial bodies. This relationship was seen in the meticulous attention early civilizations paid to the skies. The enigmatic Stonehenge is a prehistoric testament to this, aligned with the solstices, points in the year that mark the sun's most extreme positions in the sky. In the context of the 1775 Bible, the shifted calendar may point to a forgotten alignment with natural cycles. If March marked the new year, it coincided with the vernal equinox, a time of balance when day and night are of equal length, symbolizing renewal and rebirth in many cultures. This could suggest a time when people were more in tune with the rhythms of nature, aligning their lives with the equinoxes and solstices which were critical to agricultural societies. The choice of a 13-month calendar could also reflect a closer alignment with lunar cycles. Traditional lunar calendars, used by cultures like the Hebrews, based their months on the moon's phases, resulting in a year of 12 or 13 months to maintain synchronicity with the solar year. This system is rooted in the observable energy shifts that accompany the transition from one lunar phase to another, which ancient peoples believed influenced agricultural and human cycles. Furthermore, planetary alignments have long been observed and respected. The 7-day week is an enduring legacy of such celestial considerations, with each day corresponding to one of the 7 classical planets known to the ancients. The 1775 Bible's depiction of Sunday as the week's first day underscores this connection, resonating with the sun's position of primacy in our solar system. The study of the calendar in the 1775 Bible might reveal more than a mere historical curiosity. It may uncover a lost understanding of time that honored cosmic energy more explicitly than our modern system. It opens questions about how this alignment affected societal behavior, religious observances, and the general worldview of the time. The blending of pagan traditions with Christian holidays is a topic that stirs much debate, especially when we delve into the origins of Christmas. To understand this amalgamation, we need to travel back to the early centuries of Christianity. It wasn't until the 4th century that the Church officially proclaimed December 25th as the birth date of Jesus, a date that conveniently coincided with the Roman festival of Saturnalia and the pagan celebration of the winter solstice. These festivals were times of merrymaking, social reversal, and, most importantly, celebrating the return of the sun, Saturnalia for the Romans and Yule for the Germanic peoples. The church's decision to place Christmas during this festive period may have been strategic, easing the transition for converts by allowing them to continue their traditional celebrations, now under a Christian guise. But the question remains, was Jesus actually born on December 25th? Historical and scriptural evidence suggests otherwise. The Bible does not specify a date for Christ's birth, and some scholars point to clues that indicate a spring birth. Shepherds tending to their flocks, which they did during lambing season, a time quite distant from the chill of December. Moreover, the choice of date for Easter, which follows the lunar cycle and the Jewish Passover, reflects a more astronomical and scripturally grounded approach to determining a significant Christian event. Why, then, did Christmas break from this pattern? It seems that the early church fathers were less interested in historical accuracy and more in the symbolism of light overcoming darkness, aligning Christ's birth with the rebirth of the sun.
Well, another thing Constantine did was move the day of Jesus' birth to December, because Tammuz died on December 23rd. And it was believed, because Nimrod, his father, was a hunter, it was believed that Nimrod would be reborn in his son Tammuz. And his son Tammuz's birthday was December 25th. And what you would do on Tammuz's birthday was you would set up a tree. Deuteronomy 16:21. You shall not plant for yourself any tree as a wooden image near the altar which you build for yourself to the Lord your God. It was believed that in order for Tammuz to rise again as his son Nimrod, you'd have to go to the tree, you'd have to cut down a tree from the forest, and you'd have to put balls on it. And the balls were symbolic of testicles. The tree was symbolic of a phallus. Jeremiah chapter 10. Look what it says. Hear the word which the Lord speaks to you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord. Do not learn the way of the Gentiles. Do not be dismayed at the signs of the heaven, for the Gentiles are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are futile. For one cuts a tree from the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with an axe. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers so that it will not topple. I hate to bring you bad news.
The calendar delineated in the 1775 Bible, with its unconventional 13-month year beginning in March, invites us to revisit historical timelines and spiritual narratives. Among the most profound is the birth of Jesus, traditionally celebrated in December. However, if the ancient calendar were a more accurate measure, could it be that the nativity story unfolded in the spring? Such a shift is not merely a technical correction of dates, it proposes a re-examination of astrological and spiritual symbolism that has long been intertwined with the season of Jesus' birth. Spring, marked by the vernal equinox, is a time of renewal, when the earth awakens from the dormancy of winter. It's the season when lambs are born, which coincides with the historical account of shepherds watching their flocks by night, a detail supporting a springtime nativity. If Jesus was indeed born in the spring, the association with Aries, the ram, in the zodiac becomes intriguing. Aries, beginning in late March, is a sign often linked to leadership and new beginnings. Such a synchronization would weave Jesus' birth into the tapestry of astrological lore, presenting him as a figure heralding a new epoch, aligning with the symbol of the ram often associated with sacrifice and new initiatives in various mythologies. Exploring further, the spring equinox is a time when day and night are in perfect balance, which might symbolize the dual nature of Jesus as both human and divine. This natural harmony could provide a powerful allegory for the spiritual equilibrium he is said to bring. This repositioning of the nativity to spring could also influence the spiritual interpretation of biblical texts. For example, the light coming into the world gains a literal dimension as the days grow longer and the darkness of winter recedes. The themes of rebirth and resurrection, central to Christian doctrine, naturally align with the world's awakening in spring. Moreover, the implications for Easter, closely tied to the Jewish Passover, are significant. Rather than a wandering date with the Gregorian calendar, a springtime Christmas would closely precede Easter, linking Jesus' birth and resurrection even more tightly within the cycle of natural and spiritual rebirth. The hypothesis of a springtime nativity prompts a re-evaluation of our understanding of one of Christianity's most sacred narratives. It invites believers and historians alike to ponder the relationship between celestial cycles and sacred events. Each potential revelation nudges us to consider how celestial events have been foundational in shaping our spiritual traditions and how they might continue to do so if viewed through the lens of a calendar that perhaps once more closely mirrored the cosmos. The Julian calendar, established by Julius Caesar in 45 BCE, was a turning point in the annals of timekeeping. This calendar shifted from a lunar to a solar structure, extending the year from 355 days to the 365-day format we're familiar with, albeit with some inaccuracy. A day's surplus accrued every 128 years. In its wake, it is believed that a 13-month calendar, one that may have been more attuned to natural cycles, was cast aside. The reasons behind this transition were both practical and political. Roman society, growing increasingly complex, demanded a more predictable and uniform system to manage festivals, agricultural cycles, and taxation periods. It was also a power move. Emperors often manipulated the calendar to extend their terms or to insert their own festivities. These changes, subtle at first, would ripple through time to become vast overhauls, with each successive power leaving its mark on how we measure our days. Why then did the 13-month calendar, which might have had a more natural alignment with lunar cycles, fall out of favor? The omission of this 13th month could be a lost connection to a time when the night sky played a more pronounced role in daily life. Historical records are riddled with gaps and inconsistencies, some possibly by accident, others likely by design. The transition from a 13-month to a 12-month year is muddy at best. There's a school of thought that suggests the church and ruling authorities intentionally steered away from lunar calendars to diminish the influence of pagan traditions, which were closely tied to the phases of the moon. The removal of the 13th month could also be tied to numerology. 13 has been viewed with superstition in various cultures. Its exclusion might have been a deliberate effort to avoid association with a number so often linked with bad luck, or with women's menstrual cycles, which were often viewed with fear or disdain. If indeed there was a 13-month calendar that reflected a more accurate cosmic rhythm, what were the implications of its abandonment? Our modern calendar is misaligned with the lunar cycle by nearly a day each month. Over time, this dissonance could lead to a societal disconnection from natural patterns, affecting agriculture, mental health, and spirituality. Religious festivals, many of which were once synchronized with celestial events, now float through the year, untethered from the rhythms they once celebrated. Christmas, Easter, and other holidays have been assigned fixed or fluctuating dates that may no longer correspond with the times of year they were originally meant to honor. The ripple effects of a calendar out of sync with the cosmos may be more profound than we realize. Agricultural practices that were once timed to the reliable rhythms of the moon now rely on the imperfect Gregorian calendar. This subtle shift may have gradually distorted our connection to the environment, leading to practices that are less sustainable and harmonious with the Earth's cycles. In spiritual terms, the impact is even more esoteric. If sacred days are misdated, the collective energy focused on these times might be akin to misdialed calls in the cosmic sense. Are prayers and celebrations reaching their intended spiritual heights, or are they somewhat off the mark? This isn't to question the faith or devotion of practitioners, but rather to ponder the power of collective consciousness and its relationship to the timing of sacred observances.
Do you want to spend your life going and listening to preachers? Do you want to spend your life reading the Bible, half of which you can't relate to anyhow, 3/4 of which you can't relate to? Or do you want to now spend your life being a participant in God's universe and touching Him within you? That's the difference. The book of Revelation is about your body. The two witnesses that are spoken of in the book of Revelation are the pineal gland in your brain and the pituitary gland, the master gland in your brain. Did you know that? And that all of the fighting that goes on and all of the different nations and the rivers and the seas all deal with your endocrine system of your body and that which is the upheaval in your body. And God, through revelation in the hidden mysteries of the East, is giving you directions on how you can put all of this together and how you can get your body and your mind in harmony. The Bible was not written by people from Pittsburgh. The Bible was written by the ancient Eastern people, and they knew numerology. They dwelled in the numbers of the zodiac. They dwelled in all various numbers that had meanings. Let me give you a quick rundown so you get an idea what I'm talking about. Hidden meanings. The number 1 means God, the Logos. The number 2 means body and soul, you and God. The number 3 means new life, resurrection, a new beginning. Jesus was in the tomb 3 days. Jonah was in the whale 3 days. The number 4 means your fourfold nature: physical, spiritual, intellectual, emotional. Okay? The number 5 means mediation. It also means sacrifice. I'm going to show you that a little later. The number 6 means doctrines, laws, religion. Number 7 means divine intervention. Joshua walked around Jericho how many times? 7. And the walls came tumbling down. 7 means divine intervention. There are 7 nerve centers, or 7 chakras that rise from the base of the spine to the top, which are the 7 levels which a person walks in order to find that which is the pineal or enlightenment. It's all part of the Bible. It's all part of the ancient wisdom, which is covered up in numbers. Number 8 means rupture, separation. Number 9 means the human consciousness. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Number 10 means completion. And the number of perfection in Hebrew is 12, which corresponds to the most ancient zodiac. Let's take a look at the number 9. The numerical value to the word Adam in Hebrew in the ancient scriptures is 9. Everything had a numerical value, and that's why there is such mystery in the ancient scriptures, because they use numbers to deceive people who tried to think intellectually. The number 9 means Adam. Adam means earth. The earth means your flesh, your mind, your emotions, the ego, the macho, the I will do what I think, and all this kind of business, okay? So when you use that number 9, it starts to reveal a lot of things to you. If you look in the Bible, you'll see many references to 3.5 or 42 months, 3.5 years, 42 months. That all comes out to 9. Let me show you how. You'll see it as 42 months. You'll see it as 3.5 years. You'll see it as 1,260 days, because 3.5 years is 6 months. Okay, is 3 years and 6 months. That's 42 months. You take 42 times 30, you get 1,260. Okay, now when you add 1, 2, and 6, you get 9. That's the number of human consciousness. That's the Bible's way of hiding from the literal and the intellectual, spiritual, significant, deep mysteries that come out of the times of Egypt and Chaldea. They deliberately did this to hide from the profane people the powers that are in the inner consciousness, because they didn't want literal people getting a hold of these mysteries and using them for their own good or to raise money the way these evangelists and TV people do. Okay, this isn't for that. This should not cost you a dime. I'll give you a symbol. Tithing. How much money are these people made taking 10% out of your pocket? Tithing has nothing whatsoever to do with money. It's symbolic. It's a hidden myth. And what it means is you have 10% of you that is the carnal mind. 10% of you is the left side, it is the negative side, it is the carnal mind. 90% of you is the right hemisphere, which is dormant. God is saying to you, give me that 10%. Give me your ego. Give me your flesh. Give me your will. Through meditation, shut off the thoughts of the mind. You shut off the 10%, which is you. You turn on the right hemisphere, which is the 90%, which is him. You have tithes. Now let's look at the number 9. Like I said, we were going to look at the number 9. 3.5 months, 3.5 years, 42 months, they all equate to 1,260 days. If you look through the book of Revelation, you'll see all kinds of references to 3.5, 42, 1,260. They all add up to 9. So now when you have that key, that the number 9 means human consciousness, you can solve some riddles. You can solve the identity of the beast. Who is the beast? 666. Okay? Who is 666? This is the way you have to do it if you understand Eastern mysticism that wrote that. You take 6 plus 6 equals 12 plus 6 equals 18. Now you have 1, 8, 1 plus 8 equals 9. The identity of the beast is you and me, our lower carnal mind. It's the beast that rapes. It's the beast that makes wars. All of these horrible things that you read about every day in your newspaper and see every day on your television. And we can look at the beast by going into our bathroom, turning on the light, and there's a picture of the beast right over your sink. It is your lower mind. It is that part of you that threatens you, that part of you that convinces you you're not going to make it past tomorrow, that part of you that says, well, everything's okay now, but what are you going to do if, and what are you going to say when you meet so-and-so next week, and all of the stuff that keeps you rattling and shaking and all of those things within you going nuts. That's the beast. That's hell. What about those who are saved? What about those who are going to heaven? In Revelation 14, it says 144,000. That means an endless number of saved. But look at the number, 144. 1 plus 4 equals 5 plus 4 equals what? 9. 9 means consciousness. The beast is the lower consciousness. Those who are saved are the higher consciousness, the upper room, the mountain experience, meditation. When you lift yourself up above, you come into being that 144 or consciousness in the higher realm. So 9 then means consciousness, and it shows either on the lower level, which is the devil or hell of the carnal mind, on the higher level, which is the divine mind. There's an interesting way you can see how the Bible specifically shoves this in, so you know it's a tip-off from the ancient people that this is talking about consciousness. Jesus says to the fellows in the boat, look, if you want to catch fish, cast your net over to the right side of the boat, okay? What Jesus is talking about is not fish. Fish means wisdom. He's not talking about the right side of the boat. He's talking about directing your energy to the right hemisphere of the mind. You do that by turning off the left side in meditation. Now, how do we know? Now that we know that the number 9 means consciousness, how do we know that Jesus is talking about consciousness and not fish? You'll see there in that scripture when Jesus says, cast your net to the right side, you'll see how many fish they caught. They caught 153 fish. Okay? 1 plus 5 plus 3 equals 9. 9 means consciousness. Therefore, Jesus is definitely saying, if you want to be filled with God's wisdom, if you want to be filled with God's understanding, if you want to be filled with God's knowledge of this universe and your place in it, then direct your energies to the right hemisphere. And Jesus told you how to do that by taking no thought. You must meditate. You must allow your eye to be single. You focus that energy right between your eyes and your forehead, and you focus energy there, and you bring yourself above all of those thoughts which are trying to destroy you. You bring yourself up into the bliss of the heaven which is within you, and then you fill with wisdom, you fill with understanding, and you start to activate the right hemisphere of your brain which has been dormant all of your life. Look, you see the same thing in the sky. You see the same thing in nature. The sun right now, as we're sitting talking, the sun in the northern hemisphere is sitting at the right hand. It is sitting in the eastern sky. And what happens when it sits in the eastern, or it sits in the right hand? It brings to life all that was dormant during the winter. It's symbolic too. Paul says the unseen things of God should be made manifest by the things that you can see. In other words, when the sun in the heavens sits at the right hand of power in the eastern sky in the northern hemisphere, summer comes. Everything which was dormant during the winter is gone. Now there are flowers, now there is color, now there is new life. This is what it means. When the Son of Man, the desires of the flesh, the solar plexus is raised to the pineal, the light is at its highest, the power sits at the right hemisphere of the brain, okay? And that then brings to life all that was been dormant in your life during the winter of your soul. Doesn't it make sense? This is what it's about. This is what the hidden meanings of the Bible are about. Everything that is out is in. It is all within you and at your hands to activate it and call it into active participation in your life. Now, and it's never too late. If you're 8 or if you're 98, it doesn't make any difference, because once you raise your consciousness above the thoughts of the mind, there is no age. Lucifer was never a person, was never intended to be a person, was never anybody by the name Lucifer. Lucifer means bright star. Okay? And the reason the name is given Lucifer, the star, and the reason the star, because it has 5 points. Sight, taste, touch, smell, hearing. Bright star. That means when your senses, your ego, are under control of the higher realm of God, then Lucifer. That means everything is under God's control. Fine. But when that star falls, remember Jesus said, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning, the falling star, that means the 5 senses are now under the control of the ego. Sight, taste, touch, smell, and hearing are under your control. And then we got the problems with sex, we got the problems with drugs, we got the problems with booze, we got the problems with our mouth, we got the problems with gossip, we got the problems with the things we see, we got all the problems of the things that we do. We are now in hell. Satan has arrived. That's what it means. Now, once this star fell, and once the five senses come under the control of the ego, okay, and this is what it means, how then are the five senses returned back up into the higher realm? There must be the sacrifice of the five senses. You've got to give the five senses up. You do that by taking no thought. But let me show you how the Bible describes it. Jesus comes along, and what happens? He takes the five wounds, doesn't he? His hands, 2, his feet, 2, and his side, bang, 5 wounds. And as soon as he takes that 5th wound, he becomes the Christ. He then ascends spiritually, and the five senses are returned to God. They fell with Lucifer to Satan. They return to the higher place with God. When the flesh is sacrificed, then the Christ consciousness ascends. That's exactly what the mission is for you. You see, all of this happened where? It happened in Golgotha. Golgotha means skull, which means it's consciousness. People say, oh, he doesn't believe it really happened. It doesn't make any difference. The point is, does it happen now? Does it happen for you? How can you make this? I mean, do you want to spend your life going listening to preachers? Do you want to spend your life reading the Bible, half of which you can't relate to anyhow, 3/4 of which you can't relate to? Or do you want to now spend your life being a participant in God's universe and touching Him within you? That's the difference. If so, then the 5 wounds must be taken spiritually as Christ, rising with Him into the higher consciousness above human thought, in the skull. Golgotha, okay? Let me show you how the 5 wounds are acted out in your body. It happens to everybody. The whole message is the changing of the five senses of the ego into one, into a oneness with God, right? Well, let me show you how this happens. When you're born, and you can ask any good chiropractor this, when you're born, you have 33 vertebrae. But between the age of 1 and 6, there are 5 vertebrae at the base of your spine area, which fuse into one, and they become the foundation on which you stand. It happens. It happened to you. A miraculous thing happened, or not miraculous, that's a bad word, a natural thing happened to also show you, just as the sun in the sky does, what happens with Lucifer, what happens with Jesus, what happens with the 5 changing into one. Between the age of 1 and 6, the 5 bottom vertebrae in your spine fuse together and become one. The 5 changes into one, and that becomes the foundation upon which you stand. And do you know what they call that place in your spine? The sacrum. You know what it means? It means the sacred place, the holy place. And the reason they call it the sacred place or the holy place is because the 5 has come into being one. And that becomes your foundation. That becomes the entire foundation of Scripture. That becomes the foundation of the fall of man when the 5 are taken over by the ego, becomes the foundation of the resurrection of man when the 5 are given back through meditation and you rise up into Christ consciousness. That's what it's about. That's what happens. That's what the whole Bible is about.